Computer. Welcome to the Empower Network. This morning is going to be very well. Actually, I shouldn't say morning. I'm daytime stamping it. Whenever you're watching this, you're going to be watching an interview between Mel Kaario and Edward James Kerrie. I'm really excited because if you are someone, and whether you're a coach or not, maybe you're a speaker, author, trainer, maybe you're a business owner, the principles we're going to be talking about in this event this morning are going to empower you to more than double your income in less than 3 months. And this information is all for free. So please take notes. And after or during this live, please comment in here. If you have any questions and you want clarification on anything, these two gentlemen, along with myself, would be more than happy to really break it down for you how this is going to work. So first of all, welcome to the Prosperous Coach, Mel Kaario, Edward Kerrie. Thanks, guys, for being here. I'm so excited. I wore green because we're talking about money today. And money is one of the ways that prosperity can show up in our lives. And so I thought, let's just set the stage. So Mel, why don't you kick it off? Just give us like a 1 or 2 minute, who are you and why are you here today?
Sure. I'm going to tell you about like who I am. Who I am is interesting. I was journaling this morning and I wrote down who I am. So this is who Mel Kaario is. I'll just quickly, I am adventure, I'm community, I'm solitude, I'm leadership, I'm personal health, and I'm freedom, and I'm security. That's who Mel Kaario is. Those are my values. And so our values define who we are. So over and above that, I born and grew up in North Vancouver. I now live an hour and 10 minutes east of Vancouver in the land of chicken farms, dairy farms, and the smell of organic material in the air. It's a lovely place to live. And I'm married to a lovely Korean woman for 26 years and been coaching for about 12 years now. I'll leave it right there, unless you want to hear more.
No, that's great. Let's Edward, thank you so much, Mel. Ed, why don't you introduce yourself?
That's a good intro. My name is Edward James Kerrie. My real world identity, I'm a Red Seal plumber. I'm a self-taught personal development leader, thought leader. And I'm making a transition now between, because I've completed all my goals in plumbing, it's time for me to now graduate from that and learn how to create more money working for myself. That's the next to do on my list.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And the purpose why I've invited these two gentlemen to talk about the Prosperous Coach is because Mel Kaario has lived the Prosperous Coach, which is a book. We're going to talk about that. And he's going to tell you the story of how in less than 3 months, he more than doubled his income as a coach. Edward James Kerrie is, as he described, I've known this gentleman for what, Ed, like 23 years probably. And he is a thought leader. Ed is someone that gets really tickled by juicy, delicious thoughts and likes to unpack and find all the little squirrely veins that they mean and where they start from, where they go to. So Ed has read the book a number of times or listened to it this week on audiobook. He's going to ask questions to Mel. Mel's going to tell us a story of how the heck can you do this? So buckle up. And I'm just going to turn it over to you guys. I will interject and ask questions if I feel like I'm losing what's going on or I need clarity, or if questions come up, I will chime in. But you two guys, how do you want to kick it off?
Sure. Well, I think it's, thanks so much, Amos. And Ed, you're not far away geographically. We must meet somewhere in the middle and have cappuccino or something, so I'd look forward to that, Ed.
Okay.
Yes. So I know most of the people that are going to be watching this are coaches of some form, and it would be, I'm going to just say it would be really wise to listen in to what we talk about today. Many of you may have heard of The Prosperous Coach, which is written by a guy named Rich Litvin, co-authored with a fellow named Steve Chandler. Here's the book right here, okay? The Prosperous Coach, and the story of how this had such a massive impact, not only on my income, but really my life. And And when I say my life, it gave me a lot more free time. My income went way up, and it gave me clarity on how in the world do I find new clients? You know, this was introduced to me, I'm going to say close to 5 years ago now. And as I mentioned, I have been a coach for about 12 years. And as you know, most coaches will know that, you know, we could be extraordinary coaches, you know, doing some amazing things in the world and transforming people's lives in whatever modality, you know, we work in. You know, one of the things that most of us find challenging is selling and marketing. You know, but for a lot of us, it's like, no, I'm not interested in that. Just give me clients and I'll coach all day and have the best time ever. A lot of us live with that kind of mindset. And I was living that for probably 5-6 years prior to being introduced to this book. My income was like, you know, up and down and up and down. My week is full. My calendar's full of clients, then I'm not, and then I'm down in the marketing and selling valley again and going up and down and up and down. 5 years ago, roughly, a fellow moved to my town where I live, in Chilliwack, and we went out for coffee. I met him at the squash court. We went out for coffee. I discovered he was a coach. And we got to talking, and he asked me what kind of people what I did. I said, well, I work mostly with professionals and entrepreneurs. And he said, you know, he asked me a couple of very ballsy questions, quite frankly. He said, do you do good work? And I said, yeah, I do. You know, I think I do great work, and my clients would say so. And he said, okay. He said, what do you charge? No, that was really ballsy. At least I thought it was at the time. And I told him, and he said, you do good work and you work for business people. I said, yeah. He said, why don't you charge 5 times that amount? And I just looked at him, my mouth kind of hung open, and I didn't really have an answer. And I think I went home for days, maybe a few weeks. I just like, why don't I? Now, about a month later, my phone rings. He invites me to a big business shindig downtown Vancouver. Where we both live about an hour and 10 minutes away. He said, Mel, I've got a ticket. You want to come with me? I said, sure. So we're driving. We've been driving 20 minutes. He says, there's a book in the back seat I want to give to you. And it is here. It was a gift from him. And to make the story as short as possible, I went home, I read this book, and it truly, I mean, I'm not just really blowing smoke here. It changed everything for me. It changed my income. It brought me more rest. It gave me more focus, and quite frankly, brought a boatload more joy into what I do and how I serve people. And so that's the story of how I was introduced to this book.
That is quite the story, Mel.
Yeah, and it's I am just reading this right now again for the 4th time, and I made a Cole's Notes version, and it's tremendous.
Hey, Ed, do you want to chime in here before we get into why and how it did this and any obstacles Mel faced along the way? Your thoughts, Ed?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I'm coming at this book from a completely new perspective, an unbiased perspective in the realm of coaching. Part of my life journey right now is in transition, and my focus first and foremost is to stay in the creative state of play, like a child, and just be open to all the new things that come across my radar, my life. And coaching is one of those things that has come into my view recently. So first of all, I learned about the Prosperous Coach from watching Mel's interview with Amos. So thank you for pointing that out. And then I went straight into research mode and asked a couple of friends that I know who are coaches, whether they're familiar with the book, and it got good rating. And then I had a strange experience trying to acquire the book because I was going to buy it, but then I noticed that there was an audio version and it said 0. So I was trying to get this audio version, and at first it didn't work, but in the morning when I rechecked, it said this book has been added to your Audible account. So somehow some of the tinkering I did got me the book. I don't know who's been charged for it yet. I've been trying to track down everybody's credit card to see if I made a mistake in the billing, but it looks like I somehow got a free credit and got access to the book. So awesome. So
Amazing.
listening to it, I've been listening to the book, and now as a unprofessional coach, I've learned a couple of things. First of all, I am a coach. I do fall in the scale as far as the book determines as to what kind of coach, because the book actually goes through four types of coach, three main ones, and then one default one. That's basically, you're either a professional coach, a part-time coach, or a personal development coach. I'd be category 3, okay? Because I'm coaching anytime and anywhere I get a chance, with no real regard of who I'm talking to. And now I'm learning, okay, that's not the way to, I can understand why my life tends to be so complicated at times, is because coaching is very specific. It's not just something you want to do with everybody, your friends, your family. You can do that, but you're going to have few friends. Trust me. I know by experience. And then the fourth kind is the struggling coach. And that's a category of its own. So a couple of things I wanted to say about the book. The fact that it's the very first official book on coaching that I came across as somebody even contemplating coaching, I'm just tremendously blessed for that. Any coach who aspires to do this professionally, to charge for their service, needs this book in their library, audio or reading. You need to have it. It's not even a question of, is it right for me? I've been watching some interviews, and I was trying to get more research on the book. And this is a love it or hate it book. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And I can see both angles of the book while I'm listening to it, because I can tell you this is a guarantee. If you do not have a healthy relationship that you have developed with money, you're going to find every reason why this book is not for you. Mm-hmm. It's going to point that out first and foremost. But on the other hand, I've been that kind of person. Even 10 years ago, I was the kind of person who did not have that kind of what I would call a healthy relationship with money. But today I have a lot better of a relationship with money, and I can immediately see the value in what this book brings to the table as far as coaching. This book does not cover how to become a better coach. All it does is teach how to turn coaching into a business, if that's what your goal is. So I'm just going to stop right there.
Thanks, Ed. No, that's great what you said. Mel, Ed, I actually really like what you said there. Mel, can you take us through, okay, so you set the stage. This is where I was. And I met this guy, and then my world got rocked for a couple of weeks. So what is the next logical place we should go with this story? Because you obviously had to consider, what am I doing? Because you had counter information that potentially could reprogram your software to get different results that your hardware produces. So what did you next do? What did you do with this information?
Sure. Yeah. And so Rich Litvin, Steve Chandler, they lay out some very clear steps. And so here's where I was, and this is what I was doing. Like many coaches, we get, just in this day of social media, we get really caught up in doing Facebook posts, maybe writing a blog on a website. We get, we're tinkling with our website all the time. We're writing articles, and if we love doing those things, by all means, do it. But he explained something to me that really I found just really set me free. And the thing of it is, he said, Rich Litvin's business plan is this. He said, fill your day with conversations with interesting people. That's it in a nutshell. And I knew from many years, well, by the time I got this book, I'd been coaching for 6-7 years. Explaining coaching to people is very challenging. A lot of people don't really understand it. Is it therapy? Is it counseling? Is it mentorship? What is it? And trying to sell something to someone where they really have no emotional buy-in or concept of what it's going to produce in them, even though you can say we're going to help you do this, this, and this. They don't have much of a concept of it. So in short, Rich Litvin's thing is, you find people that you connect with people, go for coffee with them, you have a conversation over Zoom or telephone if they're far away, and you just connect with people. And if you see that this person has some challenges, some big dreams, and they know that you're a coach, you got to know each other a little bit, you invite them into, you ask them, would you like to experience a deep coaching conversation? And that's the language he uses. And most people, and you say, there's no charge in this, I just want to serve you. And so you do this, and you invite them into a conversation, and you do it, whatever you do, whether you're a health coach, relationship coach, business coach. And in short, Rich Litvin would say, you just serve your ass off, and you're not attached to the outcome. You're not attached to them becoming a client or not. And at the end of that, if you have served them powerfully enough and their mouth is just sitting there hanging open because they have just had an experience of coaching rather than trying to sell it, if you provide the experience of it, at the end of that, they may very well say something like, can I have some more of this? Or you might say, if you feel it's right, you can ask, what would it be like if we met regularly, maybe every week for a number of months or every other week? Would you like to talk about that? And at that point, if you serve them powerfully enough, they're going to say, yes, I would like to talk about that. And then you would propose, this is what we're going to do. And eventually they say, well, what's the cost or the investment? And you can tell them what it costs. This changed everything for me because I knew quite a few people, because I move in the world of entrepreneurship. These are the people that I coach. And I just began to ask. I'd go up for coffee, call somebody in Texas or whatever, because I knew them. And would you like to experience a coaching conversation? And it's challenging because we're like, no, I can't give my best stuff away. I can't do that. I can't. I got to hold on to it. No, you got to pay me first. Well, you got to let go of that. You serve people so powerfully that they never forget it for the rest of their life, that time you spent with them, and they want more. Now, here's the thing. I like that coach who asked me, why don't you charge 5 times that amount, right? When I was having coffee with him, and I didn't have an answer for him. And I think for a lot of us, we don't, in terms of fees, we're thinking, well, this is reasonable, but Rich Litvin would say people are paying for their dreams, and their dreams are priceless. If they've had a powerful experience, and you decide what you want to charge, you decide. And he said, get so bold that, a lot of us, like Rich said, that his story was, the first year he started to do this, he got something like 20 no's before he got a yes, because he started saying, with a very straight face, he had started saying, and this is the true story, he said, it'll be $20,000 a year to work with me, and we'll meet weekly. And he would just say that. And he said he got 10 months of no's. And then one day, a woman said, great, when do we start? How do I pay you? And that changed everything. Then it went to $50,000 a year. Now, these are big numbers, right? Like massive numbers, crazy numbers. At least, well, I'm saying crazy because maybe I'm thinking, like Ed said, my relationship with money, right? I don't do anywhere near that, but mine went way up. They did go 5 times up. And I found it works because I provided an experience, and you just serve as powerfully as you can with no emotional attachment to whether or not they become a client. And I'd rather do that than spend 2 hours writing a blog or social media posts or LinkedIn posts. You can do that if you want. But the whole thing is, find people you can have conversations with that may be in your niche. That's it. You want a conversation. And then take it from there. Serve powerfully. That's essentially the business model.
Thank you, Mel. Ed, would you like to respond to that, to what Mel just said?
Yeah. He basically said a majority of what the book is about. A couple of things I was reflecting on as he was talking. I'm really drawn to the fact that the book comes from coaching at an angle. Like I said, it's not about figuring out whether you are a coach, what kind of coach you are. There's other books and other resources for that. All it does is it gets straight to the root of psychology, most of it regarding money. But what I like about the book is it pulls no punches. Yes, it says serve right up front. It says to, and at least from what I gather from Rich Litvin, he will not sit down for an initial meeting with any client that is less than 2 hours long.
Yeah.
All right. He says that in under 2 hours, you cannot produce, you cannot facilitate a truly life transforming experience, number one. But the other thing is he doesn't make it a habit of doing that on a repetitive basis. He'll do the one-off to introduce a potential client, to the power of what coaching is. And so that other side of the coin, that's up for every individual coach to know and to learn and to assess, how powerful of a transformation can you really facilitate in the life of an individual in a 2-hour session, right? That'll kind of determine. So I can see why Rich Litvin, why Steve Chandler have no problem whatsoever allowing somebody the benefit of experiencing a first coaching session for free. I came close to something like this myself at the beginning of the year with somebody I mentioned in a previous roundtable named Quasi Joe here. And basically, I was intrigued because here was a guy using YouTube as sort of a sales funnel to get into the personal face-to-face conversation. And I just kind of explored that rabbit hole to see where it would go, right? And so it ultimately led to the session. Now, Quasi and I, we had a face-to-face on Zoom for almost an hour. And then it kind of got to the point where, he disclosed the fee and I wasn't ready at that time to hear what that particular fee was in exchange for the service he was offering. And so he had to run off to another call and kind of left me undecided about the whole thing. So, that's just an experience that I had. Personally, I think Quasi's worth more than he's charging. And that's part of the reason I had a problem with the fee. It wasn't so much what he was asking. It was if he's as convinced as I am that what he's going to help me with works, then he's undervaluing his service. So, but that was just a personal experience. I wanted to actually offer him more.
Ed, can you just give us context? What was his fee? What did you think it was worth, US?
Yeah. So his fee was $6,000 based on some kind of content. It's a program that he has. It's called Reality Creator Mastery. And it goes for X amount of months. I don't know everything that it involves, but he's basically, it's up to him. Like everything about this is a state of play. We get to play and create. The reasons I'm drawn to potentially considering coaching as at least a part-time secondary income on top of my plumbing is because it facilitates that part of my brain that can have so much fun. Not taking it seriously because I get my bread and butter from a full-time job already. Number two, I can just really test what works and what doesn't work in this kind of field. Just as I said, but I don't want to go off track. So my concept, because when I went to Quasi, I had a very specific goal. I told Quasi, I said, I want to generate $25,000 a month steady doing something that I enjoy. Okay. Plumbing is not that thing. I don't enjoy plumbing. I just do it because I can, and it provides me a good income. But now I want to move beyond that, and I want to start activating, some other things that I believe in, and start really pressing the limits of what kind of reality I can create for my life first and foremost, because I am the type of person that takes on personal responsibility for if I have any intention whatsoever that I'm going to have something of value to share with another person, I better be able to demonstrate it in my own life first and foremost. So that's just me. A lot of people might not be like that. But where's I going? Oh yeah, I felt that okay, if Quasi was sure that what he could help me with was worth $6,000 to him, and it helped me meet my goal of just making $25,000 a month, for me, that would be life transforming. I would not want to short pay him $6,000. So I sent him a counter offer. Oh, no, actually, you know what? I didn't send him a counter offer. I sent him an email saying, I've prepared a counter offer. Would you like the details in email or on another Zoom call? And I have yet to hear from him. But it basically, now that I've listened to this book, The Prosperous Coach, he may not actually consider the counter proposal anyway, but the counter proposal that I offered to him over a 5-year term was $25,000 rather than $6,000. Because to me, that was more appropriately valued if he was able to help me meet that goal. So that was just part of my whole thinking with that.
Okay.
Is
Ed, we got to move on from this. So Ed, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Mel, because that gives us context into how a person might perceive and what if they're like, well, if you can tell me, Ed or Mel, that you're going to take me here, then Mel, your price has to be congruent with that. If it's really life-changing. I got one comment we got to get to and one question. April says, I agree with this. Initial meetings are often 2 hours. There's so much to unpack and connect on, which is absolutely true. You can't rush foreplay. Yeah. Shannon Ferguson said, I'd love to learn powerful questions to ask people in initial meetings to really get the conversation going. So Mel, and then we'll go back to Ed for comments on that. Mel, can you tell us then, okay, so you're at this level and now you're being challenged to go up to here. But number one, how did you get the belief in your head that your value is that, as Ed is saying? And number two, to Shannon's question, what are you practically doing in this 2-hour conversation to bring value? Because you have to prove to them the value, but you got to prove to yourself that you're worthy of this.
Yeah. It's a great thing. And Ed talked a little bit about the relationship with money. And so, I am a man of faith. I'm a man of Christian faith, and Christians sometimes we can get really messy when it comes to money, and like there's this tension between, okay, I just want to serve and be kind and bless people, and then but I love earning a good living, and I've got this there's a fair bit of opportunist salesmanship in my soul, and I love closing the big sale. It pumps me up. I love it, right? So I have this tension, but the day when I started asking for more was a challenging day, and as Rich Litvin says, most coaches will just stumble over it. He said, you gotta practice in front of a mirror saying the big crazy number and don't flinch. And you just got to say it with absolute confidence. It must be rehearsed. It must be, and I have, it must be rehearsed. Just, figure out what you want, what you think, what kind of value you provide, and don't shy away from it. And I did get no's, but then I started getting some more yeses, and that was wonderful. What I do, so again, I just Rich Litvin's got a podcast, and I encourage coaches to listen to it. It's on Spotify called One Insight. I listen to it regularly. It is full of gold, so what he would say, so whatever you do as a coach, you need to figure out, because it needs to be done your way. Rich's favorite thing is when he's sitting with someone and he's beginning to do his 2-hour thing, he likes to ask them this question to get it started. He would say to them, okay, I'll just say, use your name, Amos. He would say, Amos, let's pretend it's 3 years from now. And 3 years from now, from today, and we've already had this coaching conversation. And you call me 3 years from now, and the phone rings, and I say, hey, Amos, it's so good to hear from you. How you doing? And Amos says to me, pardon my French, forgive me, Lord. He would say, holy shit, Mel, that conversation we had 3 years ago changed everything for me. And you were right. Like, that coaching is just incredible. It just changed everything for me. And I would say, Amos, I am pumped to hear it. I'm so excited to hear that your world has changed. Tell me about it. First he would say something like, what are you seeing around you that is so beautiful? And the person, Amos would tell him, what are you feeling on the inside? Amos would tell him, what are you experiencing? Amos would tell him. And then from there, because we're talking about the future, now he knows what to coach them on in these 2 hours, because this has been amazing for Amos 3 years from now. Now, every coach, we all have different modalities, whether you're a health coach, divorce coach, business coach, life coach, relationship coach, whatever it is. We need to figure out what it is that we can give people a powerful experience about what we do. It's pure, because we all have different modalities. Me personally, I help people see their future, a future that is meaningful, fulfilling, everything they want. And I have a process that I've been using for probably 7, 8 years, and it's powerful, where people can see, essentially I help them discover their 7 core values, and then what that value would mean to them if they had it all, like in that area. Like, my number 1 is adventure, and I would have them describe what adventure would look like in their future if they had all the adventure, their definition of adventure. And I help them see in the 7 most important areas of their life, if they just had it all complete. And they end up seeing they're in an amazing life for themselves in their future based on what is most important to them. And it is transformational. People have had grown men weep, sell their businesses because they found where they were misaligned. Now, that is not a 2-hour thing. Quite frankly, it's probably, in total, it's probably 5 hours of their time, including 3 hours of my time. So we get together a couple of times, and it's labor intensive, but it works. And at the end of that, I said, would you like to create strategy on how to bring all this in your life? And often they'll say, yeah, I would, right? So I help them see their future. That's what I do, that they love and that's meaningful.
I got a question, Mel. Is this the part of what you're giving away to?
Yeah.
So you're spending 3 hours of your time, and
Yeah.
you're inviting them into a process where you're assisting them, but they're identifying their values. You have a system for this.
Yeah.
And then separately, after they've identified their values, you're letting them get into so they're using their imagination into play mode, pretend mode, which is activating all sorts of good things in them. And then after they've gone through this process and they've imagined this reality that they'd like to wake up to, you've already served them for 3 hours here.
Yeah.
Ed, can you comment on that? Because what Mel's talking about is we're touching on the law of attraction, manifestation stuff, because you're getting them into play mode, which is key.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ed, can you talk on that for a bit?
Yeah, we are. Unfortunately, I don't have anything valuable to add to the question that was asked because I'm not a practicing coach. But the only thing I can comment, which I think is valuable, is that no coach is ever going to be able to lead another person beyond where the coach themselves are at in personal development, holistic health, stuff like that. And then there's another thing that a lot of people don't understand is some coaches may be niche specific. And, somebody, to me, for instance, if I was going to look for a personal coach, they would have to be more niche specific, because there's an unspoken rule about who do you listen to in life when it comes to advice, right? And everybody's got an opinion. But in general, I've simplified it down to a very easy thing to determine is you want to listen generally to people who display that they have what you want, right? If you want to make $1 million, you want to become a self-made millionaire, you need to get coaching from somebody who's done that specific thing. And then in the process, if they've got crappy relationships and divorces in their life, you're not going to really want to listen to much they have to say on relationships, right? So there's a lot of different things at play.
Yeah.
But now I'm the type of person who hungers. It's, if I didn't have a full-time job, my full-time job would be collecting social assistance in order to become the best human being that I know how to be. Right. That kind of sounds odd, but that's the only thing I have an example. If I could duplicate myself to do my work for me at the plumbing job, I would sit here and just keep reading, listening, trying to master who I am, trying to master myself in a lot of areas that I currently do not demonstrate mastery in. There's some key areas that I do not display mastery in, health being one of them, like physical health. I freely admit that I got a long way to go in that area. Keep me on track though. What were you asking me? We are getting into law of attraction territory for sure.
Yeah. So let me bring that back then. So Mel basically gave this process by which he invites the potential client to experience Mel serving his ass off, to quote Mel. And after 3 hours of Mel's time and 5 hours of this potential client's time, Mel has taken them through a few different, I know a bit of Mel's process, a few processes where these people are engaging parts of themselves that in our society were not typically encouraged or given opportunity just by happenstance to engage in. So when they're activating, getting into their play mode, which is probably one of the best ways to say it, and they're imagining what life could be like, and Mel's asking them, and they could see it, not with this eye, but they could see it, they could taste it, touch it, smell it, and Mel's asking leading questions to have them add more fabric to this picture that's forming inside of them, so they can, and the further he can get them to stretch it out, and the clearer and the more vivid it can be, they go, holy shit.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Beautifully expressed, Amos. And then I would ask them, what did you not write down that just felt far too bold to even think about? Right. That is the question. Like, like they might write down adventure, and they might write down, man, if I was experiencing all of this, my life would just be amazing. And I would say, what did you not write down, Amos, that just felt far too big ass bold?
Is there always something that they're holding back in your
almost always. And I have them, we've got these hierarchy of core values. Like my number one, like I listed mine when we started, my top 3 are adventure, solitude, and community, right? So I've got a deep definition for me personally of what adventure looks like. And if it was, let's say Ed's is adventure, and he's written down and he's visualizing what adventure looks like in full bloom in his life, I would say, Ed, what did you not write down that just felt so big ass bold that you thought, I can't even express it? And might be quiet for a while, and then you'd say, well, this, wow. And I would ask, what prevented you from writing it down? They go, well, this, and this. I said, do you really think it's possible? Yeah, I think I could do that. And then at the end of this whole 2-3 hour, time we spent together, I said, would you like some help with that? Just like Rich Litvin would say, you got to think of yourself as a server in a restaurant. And after someone's had a nice meal, and he says, you're serving the client, you're serving the person by asking them. A server, you had a nice meal at a nice restaurant, and the server comes by and they say, would you like dessert? You're serving those people. Would you like some coffee to end your meal? After that, you'd say, would you like some help with that? And it's the most beautiful thing. It's not threatening. Would you like some help with that? After they've seen what an incredible, energizing, meaningful life would look like. And
I-
it identifies their stress and anxiety and why they're feeling depressed
Hmm.
because they don't have any of this or very little of it. So it does that also, right?
I want to just, for those watching, I want to just clearly state it that what Mel is talking about is not that you as a coach are the rock star. You're guiding them through a process and getting the hell out of the way so that that person who is keenly more aware of what's in terms of their dreams, their hopes, their wishes, as a lot of people say, holding that space, but you're intelligently leading them down the path so they can create the picture. So Mel, after you did this, we got to get to this.
Yeah.
After you did this, you said your income 5 times. Your closing rate, what's happened to your closing rate? How are you currently pitching people? I know intimate details you've shared with me, but people that are reaching out to you now, can you give us
Yeah.
some stories and closing rate stuff? Some people are numbers people and they'd like to know, okay, what's the net or what's the, after all that said and done, brass tacks, let's get down to it.
Sure. It is, and it's growing, and I'm getting more bold and asking bigger numbers because for a couple of reasons, quite frankly, because financially I'm no longer feeling stretched. I'm living in abundance. I only coach 10 hours a week. That's all. I don't want any more because then it starts infringing on my adventure time, right? As Ed was saying, I live this now, right? Like if it starts messing with my adventure, I start feeling off. I got to have my definition of adventure. So actual like numbers. I'm not going to say the numbers, Amos. I'm not going to say exact numbers, but I will say my income has gone way up and I'm getting more bold all the time and asking bigger and bigger numbers because Ed, you mentioned that when you can clearly see you offer this much value to someone, the number you ask should be equal to at least the value you provide for someone. I save marriages. I save people. My process saves people from going into at times depression. It saves them. It's quite frankly, it saves their life. I can say that, confidently. So I should be charging a fair bit, and it's going up and up all the time, right? So it's wonderful. I don't know if I didn't. You asked a few other things, Amos. You wanted me to share.
Yeah, and that's fine. I like it when I push people and they push back. I think it's awesome. So
Yeah.
okay, but we won't talk finances, but in terms of closing, can you talk ratios?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm gonna say probably. Wow. So of course, what can change the closing ratio? Of course, is you start asking bigger numbers, right? And you start pushing it. And of course, when the closing ratio goes up, you should be asking for bigger numbers if it feels right to you to do so, right? I'm going to say probably for the last 2 years, it's probably close to 50%.
Wow.
Yeah, close to 50%. And so
Wow.
here I'll share my what probably prevents it from being higher is the fact that I live in a town of Chilliwack. You can look it up for those people in the planet, the community who don't know where it is. It's about an hour and 10 minutes east of Vancouver. It's a farming community. It's changed a lot over the last 5-6 years. There's up until recently, it's been a farming community and with a very kind of small kind of town thinking. And it can become challenging for me to actually find these people and follow this process, right? Just invite them in, connect with them. Or where do you go? What do you do? And quite frankly, my wife and I, according to my values of freedom and adventure, we might be moving to South Korea for a number of years. on a scale of 1 to 10, and this is happening, it's probably right now, it's probably at a good 7 and going up monthly, aligned with my values, like what I live and what I breathe and what I help people with. This is going to become a challenge for me because I speak some Korean. My visa tells me that I cannot earn money from Koreans, the visa, because I can't be earning a living from Koreans. I can earn a living from Korea with people outside of Korea, which would be fine. But now I'm going to have to create a strategy, probably on LinkedIn, to follow this connect, invite, create process, where I'm going to have to be connecting with people virtually. And this is going to become a bit of a challenge for me. And I'm working out the strategy right now as we speak, where I'm no longer going to have a cappuccino with somebody. I'm going to have to do this virtually. So it's going to change things for me. I'm thinking it through, but I'm pumped to be doing it from the other side of the world, going out for Korean barbecue twice a week and going to Bali on my winter vacation instead of Puerto Vallarta. That excites me.
I love it.
And so here's the thing. I'm going to be doing, I'm just answering my question. I'm going to be doing LinkedIn posts talking about what I have done in my life, just like what Ed said. I am living and breathing what I coach people on doing. And I can help them do it too. Live a big, bold ass life. Once you discover with great clarity what a big, bold ass life looks like for you, I'm going to help you do it too. Let's connect and let me show you what your future looks like. Hey, it all just came together. Thank you, Amos. I'm going to send you an e-transfer later.
Well, thank you for sharing all this. If you've been watching this, Ed, I'm going to go to you for some closing thoughts. You have too, because it's been a bit since we've come to you. But basically, if you're a coach and you're not north of at least $300 to $500 an hour, this is information you should take in. If you're someone that's closing 1 out of 20%, this is information you take in. The goal is to let's get you to at least 1 out of 3 people you're closing in at least $300 US an hour, or else what are we doing here? And not that money is everything, it's not, but anytime you're providing real value, as Ed talked about earlier, if we are really changing people's lives, why are we not charging for it? Because the paywall barrier exists to solve the psychological issue that people have mistrust. If you're going to promise to change my life and I assign an intrinsic value to that of $50,000 to $100,000, you damn well better be charging good for it, or else you're a shyster, or else you're scary and my wall goes up. There has to be an equation where you can't just give everything for free. You might do the first thing for free, but there has to be a transactional equality to it, so that I know I win, I know you win, you're not taking advantage of me, I'm not taking advantage of you. Psychologically, humans will repel stuff that does not tick that box to some extent. Yes, it's subjective, but it has to be ticked. So Ed, can we go to you before we wrap up, just with any thoughts you had here?
Sure. So, like I mentioned a couple of times, I have the luxury, the blessing of having no professional coaching experience. So my limitation is not going to be what I think I know that isn't true. That's not going to be my limitation. My only limitations are going to be my imagination. So I'm looking forward to playing in the space. What I can say for certain that I've heard from the authors of this book is every coach needs to get this straight. Never trade dollars for time. That is not what this industry is about. You cannot bill by the hour for coaching. And Rich Litvin will tell you straight up about that. He says there are 4 ways to price coaching. Pricing by the hour is not one of those 4. You got to get over that right away, because you can't. Same reason that you can't charge for plumbing in the same capacity. People want a plumber to show up and fix a clogged pipe at a $500 bill that takes 5 minutes, and they think that they're getting ripped off because it's $500 for 5 minutes. And it's like, no, it took me 25 plus years to learn how to unclog the pipe in 5 minutes. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for not having me in your house for half a day, tearing up your place, making more damage than what there is, right? Same thing with coaching. You're basically providing value that's not based on time. If you want to charge by the hour, you got to charge for your life experience. Now, how old are you? Are you 50 years old? You've got 50 years of experience in one, well, hopefully something niche, or at least some of it is in there. That's what you're charging when it comes to coaching for. You're charging for an experience. So you got to get rid of the hourly mentality. That's all I have to say about that. And I'm not even a coach, but I'm going to go into coaching with that mindset. You best be guaranteed.
Love it. Love it. Love how you summed that up, Ed. Mel, last comments?
Yeah. Yeah, people are not very good, Ed. People are not paying you for your time. They're paying you for their dreams. That's it in a nutshell. And their dreams are priceless.
Yeah.
Wow.
Especially if you can help them get to those dreams.
Yeah.
That's even more priceless.
Yeah. And if you can show them their dreams before they paid you a cent, that is awesome.
Even more priceless.
Yeah, even more priceless. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Mel, for being here in the Empower Network. You guys you bring such value.
Mhm.
It's amazing. Thanks for watching. If you've been watching this, you've been watching Mel Kaario. You've been watching Edward James Kerrie. Please feel free to connect with them. I'll be tagging them both in this post. And I want to say, apologize for the link thing earlier. I have still not solved that. I will make sure that I solve that for next time. Basically, the links I put for these events are only for the participants that are actually on the event with me or with whomever is hosting. I have to solve because Facebook requires me to put a link in. Maybe I'll just put facebook.com. So I've been putting the actual Zoom link in. For those of you that tried to get on thinking you'd be joining, sorry about that. My mistake. It won't be happening again, but just for clarity. Mel and Ed, thank you guys. This was a real treat.
A pleasure.
Welcome.
Okay. Chat soon.
See ya.